Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Jen Sugarmeyer. I'm your host of Mindset in the Morning, brought to you by Higher and Heels. And this week we are talking about intentionality. And really that's what the show is all about, is becoming intentional about your life and everything that you do, really. Because just as Zig Ziglar says, if we aim at nothing, we hit our target every time. So we want to become intentional about our lives. Where are we going? What are we doing? What are the goals that we want to achieve? How do we want to feel? We talked about yesterday on the show, how do we want to feel? I mean, in our clothes, after we eat a meal, when we walk into an office, do we want to feel powerful? How do we want to walk out of the door for the day? So, becoming intentional is so important for us to have that level of awareness because it actually impacts everything. So, today I wanted to talk about stress because stress is something we all deal with from time to time. And it's so important. And because it's Friday, at least the time of this taping, and we're about to go into the weekend, I want to talk about reducing stress and 8 ways to reduce it so that we can go into the weekend and actually put some of these into practice. Do a little self-care Saturday, self-care Sunday, and that's we're going to talk about 8 ways. So what is stress? So stress is that could come on because we have a lot of pressures in our life, or we have a lot of changes, a lot of things that are happening that are coming and going. Maybe there's something new and you're under a deadline. And so there's this stress that we feel. But what is stress? So when stress happens, it's this release of cortisol and adrenaline. So our bodies are actually responding by taking a chemical and putting it into our body. And it's like, psh, it spikes it. And so that's why a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm so stressed. And they start to feel cranky because it actually restricts our blood flow. So it's a lot of times in the neck, and you'll hear about people have tension headaches because as this stress is happening, it is like attacking our body. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need a chiropractor. I need, a doctor, whatever it is, but somebody to help. And so this is the reaction of these external things that are happening within our life. They are then in our body creating these, releasing these, this cortisol, the adrenaline. And then that's then having additional effects on our body. The cranks, stress is just, there's so many things. So what else can it cause? So stress actually, let me read this to you because I don't want you to think that I'm just making this up because I did take a few notes this morning. So on your body, some common effects of stress. So we talked about headaches, and now, a lot of this is because you're holding back here all of this tension, chest pain, fatigue, change in sex drive, upset stomach, sleep problems. So these are all things that as we're dealing with stress, these can creep up. We might feel more anxious, resentful, restless, lack of motivation, feeling overwhelmed, irritable. Yeah, I think that's a big one. Like we don't feel good. I think of like my niece, for example, and I mean, it's any child. And when they don't feel good, they say something, right? If they're hungry, they cry. If they've got something in their pants, they cry. If they are tired, they cry. And that's your body crying out saying, hey, something isn't right. So yeah, we don't feel good. We're irritable because there are these, things that are happening within our body and we're restricting our blood flow and it can lead to hypertension and diabetes. And I mean, there's all sorts of things that can happen when we're under prolonged stress. So it's important for us to understand what it does to our body and then become intentional about changing that. Because that's what this game is all about, is having that level of awareness and then saying, "Okay, I'm going to make a difference. I don't want this in my life, so I'm going to make a change." True story. So after my birthday a couple of weeks ago, I had so much that was going on. And I had this conference. It was this 3-day conference. Um, and I'm writing my next book right now. It's called Confidence is Queen. I'm really excited. It's going to be coming out in the next few months. And I had certain goals and I was really pushing myself towards these. And I really caused a lot of kind of just burnout. I don't know if it was stress, but it was just a lot of things that were going on. And then I stopped taking care of my body the way that it needed to. I wasn't drinking enough water. I got some coffee and I started drinking coffee and I was putting all of this fake sugar in it. So I had replaced water, which we need, all of our bodies need. And I was putting, coffee in it, which will dehydrate you. And so I was putting that into my body and I wasn't getting outside and getting the vitamin D and the fresh air and all of that. And I was just kind of in my apartment going through motions and I wasn't feeling good. And so even if you are someone that is, very intentional about your life and you're into mindset and you take care of yourself, there are times in your life, because I'm telling you, it happened in my own, that something can creep up and all of a sudden it's like, "Whoa, where did this come from? Why do I have that crink in my neck? Why am I feeling very tense? Why don't I have the level of enthusiasm and energy that I did before? What happened?" And so for me, for other people, we have to everything we are is intentional, even being kind. Do you think kindness is just completely natural? No, it's a choice that we make. Do we want to help that person sitting on the side of the road or do we drive by? These are choices that we are constantly making. And so putting you first, acknowledging that these things are happening within you, it's so key. 100%. So, what are some things that we can do about it? Well, first and foremost, we can stretch. And that's what I'm going to be doing when I get off of when we leave here today, because I've really felt like I needed to be doing some stretching. And why stretching? Because we talked about how the blood how our it's restricted when we're stressed out. It restricts our blood flow. And so we feel it in different areas. And it's just healthy for the body in general. I mean, you're loosening things up. You're allowing for better circulation. We don't want anything to get stuck. It's just making our bodies more agile. They say, and I didn't fact check this one before today. A lot of times I fact check, but I didn't fact check this one. But I believe when you are more agile and you're more nimble, that like if you get in a car accident, that it's actually you're more likely to, your body will bounce back better because it has that elasticity. So I've always had that fact in my mind. I will have to fact check that. But anyhow, you're welcome to do it as well. But stretching is so critical for us and in our daily movements. I mean, I think about how much I run and how I just probably don't stretch enough. And I'm out there, pounding on my muscles, but I haven't massaged them. I haven't given them that chance to just stretch and be and all of that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to go spend at least 30 minutes just stretching my body out and those areas that feel really tight and tense, and that is going to change. So, I mean, you will feel that immediately. And I don't know that I'm sure that there have been times where it it like the pain feels so good, but it feels good most every time that I stretch. Again, there are times that you might, be dealing with an ailment and you're like, that really hurts. But the long-term goal, the long-term outcome is that it's going to feel good. Now, if there are things with you, if you've never stretched before, go find a professional and have them help stretch you out and teach you some of the stretches that you need to be doing specific to your body and whatever you're feeling, if you're feeling tight in certain areas. So I would absolutely recommend in getting someone. I've had people, stretch my legs out and they're like, "Oh, this right here, Jen, is really tight. The rest of your body, not so much." So they'll be able to tell you where you may need to focus a little bit more time and attention. All right. Number two, take time for yourself. You got to make that time. I mean, I hear it all the time that, well, I'm just so busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. Well, life is going to continue to just be that way unless you say, hold on, time out. Now, let me ask you this. If you found out that you had a diagnosis, let's say that the doctor gave you a diagnosis and was like, you know what, you have to make changes immediately. Would you do them? Would you? My guess is yeah. Yeah. You probably would make those changes because the doctor is saying, hey, this is life threatening. You have to make these changes. But you see, we don't want to get to that point. We don't want to get to a point where a doctor is telling us you are in such a condition that you have to make these life changes immediately or else. Get ahead of the doctor. Get ahead of them. I'm not saying don't go see them, but what I'm saying is don't allow things to get to a point where this stress has just built up and built up and built up, and you're just walking around and you're really cranky, and these other things within your body, whether it be hypertension or diabetes or some of the heart diseases that come up, where we have these really kind of big things that are going on within our bodies, and the doctor tells us now you have to. Now it's your choice. So write things down. Say, what does my schedule look like? And where can I add in, I don't know, 20 minutes, 5 minutes? Where can you find that time? I'm really thirsty today. I wonder if I drank too much salt yesterday. I don't know. So take time for yourself. Take time before the doctors make you make time. Okay. So find that time as we're going into the weekend. It's self care Saturday, self care Sunday. Eat healthy. Oh my gosh. What you eat matters. And we've talked about this before, but it is so critical what you're putting in. They say you are what you eat. Yeah. If you're just throwing in sugars and all these things into your body, I mean, that's going up and it's impacting your brain, and that was part of my 2 weeks of just not feeling good. I wasn't putting the right things into my body, and I knew it. And what I called, like, grace, giving myself a little bit of grace, it actually, like, okay, maybe for my birthday, it was fun for me to go have some cupcakes, but I ate crap for too long, and it just didn't make me feel good. And I put on a few extra pounds, and so it was just this ripple effect. So I had 2 weeks, y'all, 2 weeks that, I mean, I was still being productive and, it wasn't, but I just wasn't feeling 100% here. And we want to feel at our best every single day. And I knew something was off, but it was my lifestyle. I wasn't doing the things that I knew that I needed to be doing. I wasn't getting enough exercise. I wasn't eating the right things. And I think I was getting enough sleep, but I was drinking coffee, and so the coffee was impacting my sleep. So that absolutely was happening. I think there was one night I actually didn't sleep well. So it's just that you're an ecosystem. So what you put in matters. So be careful of things that have preservatives and sugars, fake sugars. That's another one. Fake sugars. I mean, we could do a whole talk on that. And I'm just as guilty because I'm like, I don't know if I want the calories. And sometimes I do. And sometimes I decide to have fake sugar. But the body doesn't know how to process this fake stuff. It's not natural. So it's this foreign thing that the body's like, now what? So we could do a whole thing. I'm not a doctor, but when you're putting things into your body that aren't natural, that's why things like the keto diet and the paleo diet and like those are really popular because a lot of them are just fresh, non-processed, maybe not even cooked, raw vegetables and things like that, kind of going back to the caveman thing. And I'm not advocating for one or the other, but that's why they've become really popular. But we need to be aware of what we put in our body. Exercise. Exercise, wow. Getting out, getting that fresh air. Maybe you do it just in your apartment. I think COVID was hard for a lot of us because we found ourselves with more of a sedentary lifestyle, a lot of us. I'm very fortunate that I live in an area that has walking paths. And so I found that I was doing a lot of walking. Now I have hip issues, but anyhow, but I was able to go out and do that. But, at first, and once you get into a routine, sometimes it's hard to just pivot. I think there's this rule, like it takes like 30 days to really get into a routine or 21 days or something like that. Like it takes a little bit of time. And so it's not just like, here's my schedule this day. I'm going to change it up here. I'm going to change it up. I mean, for us to really get into a routine, and I should say routine, not schedule, but for us to get into a routine, it takes some time. So when COVID hit and it was like, okay, stay in your house, you can't go outside, gyms closed, people were afraid to go out in public, all these things that, yeah, we had more of a sedentary lifestyle and it impacts our health so much, even our mental health. I know for me, because we are this ecosystem, for me, when I'm gaining weight, I'm like, "Oh, I don't feel good about that." And that does impact my mental health. I'll just be honest. I don't feel good about it because I know that I want my pants to feel a certain way. Speaking of being intentional about how we feel, I know that I want things to feel a certain way. And when I put them on and I'm not fitting in my clothes, it doesn't make me feel good. Now, I will say, I'm like, okay, time to get on it, got to make a change. But with COVID, it was really tough because, in a way, almost like some of us felt like we didn't have the options we once did. And, we're like seeking this new routine and how do we do things and maybe have kids and, how do you manage with the whole family home now? And wow, now you got to be a teacher and all these things. And so there were just a lot of things. And that probably added to your stress, which is what we're trying to reduce. And so it just became this whole like, cycle of things. I want to exercise so I can reduce my stress, but I can't exercise because I'm in the house, which is taxing to my mental health. And now I have all these people here, and now I'm stressed out, and I want to reduce my stress, but I can't get rid of it. And it was like cycle, 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 cycle. And that's what our life is like. And so when are we going to break out of the cycle? And that's when you have to say, you know what? Something has to change because you want to make that change before the doctor makes you make that change. So, what is it? So, make sure that you are adding exercise in some capacity, whether it's just taking a walk. You don't have to go to the gym and start lifting 100-pound weights and, you know, running 10 miles. Like, go take a walk. It could be as simple as that. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. This is when our body repairs itself. And believe it or not, even so, I used to do bodybuilding competitions. And as part of my workout routine, there were rest days, there were cheat days. Cheat days basically just means that you're eating really healthy and then you get like a meal that you can go eat whatever you want because we can't just like change, stress everything, like have clean meals, clean meals, clean meals. Like you got to treat yourself as well. And so you'd give yourself one cheat meal, but also you'd give yourself that rest day because our bodies need that time to repair because we're putting so much stress and stress and stress onto it. Have you ever gone to sleep at night, maybe you've got a scratch or something like that on your face, or you've got a zit or something, and you wake up and you're like, wow, the zit actually looks different than it did yesterday. I know because I have some right here. And I'm like, oh, good. That looks a little better today than it did yesterday. But that's because our bodies are cycling in the middle of the night. So it's important for us to get sleep and the right amount of sleep because, if we're constantly being woken up, that's sleep, but that's not the right amount of sleep. So talk to a sleep doctor, get some more expert advice, but make sure that you are getting some sleep. Negative thoughts. So we need to turn that negative magnet around and start to be more positive. So there are lots of ways that we can be doing that, but just at least for today, be aware of the negative thoughts that are coming into your mind and say, hold on, let's flip this around. So here's a quick one for you to do. So if you see a driver and the driver is driving like a madman or madwoman, just say, okay, let's say it's a madman. And we say, okay, this guy's a jerk. And it puts you into the state of stress because you're like, he's going to hit somebody. What I like to do, honest to goodness, I'm like, well, he must be driving his pregnant wife to the hospital. And I just tell myself that it's a lot more positive. I just flip it around and then I try to let it go. I just not try. I let it go. Boom, we're done. So take those negative thoughts, flip them around and be more positive. Connect with others. Make sure that you are not doing this all alone. Connect with others and really have that communion around you. Now, even if you're an introvert, you need to have this human connection. I know with COVID, things have been different, but we do have Zoom, and now things in the world are lightening up. And so I would encourage you, just make that time. Go have coffee with a friend, go get together with someone, but make sure you make that time to connect with another human. And last and not least, number 8, find something fun to do. Go out, and what is the activity that makes you happy? Is it going to see a movie? Is it taking that walk? Is it, just sitting and reading a book somewhere? Is it laying under and watching the clouds? I don't know what that is for you, but there is something. And so I want to encourage you this weekend, self care Saturday, self care Sunday, whatever it is, but go find something fun to do. So those are 8 tips that we can use to reduce our stress, because we don't want the doctors to be making us take control over our life. We need to take control of our life and enjoy the ride. There's so many fun things that we can do. Like, I'm going to go stretch right now, and that's going to be a nice fun thing for me to do, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to put on some nice relaxing music, and that's how I'm going to start my day. So with that, I would appreciate if you would if you would subscribe, and if you would share. And I would love if you would let me know what you did for this weekend, because I know I'm going to go do something for me, and I haven't figured out what yet, but I'd love to hear what you're doing. So go to higherinheels.com. You can connect with me there. So until next time, how do we end this? We're coming up. We want the world to know. We're gonna let it show. That's right, ladies, because we're coming up. We want the world to know. We're gonna let it show. Go have a great weekend. Let me know what you do. And I will see you back here Monday, same time, same place, 6 a.m. Central, or just find me on YouTube. I'll be here. All right. Cheers.